Kirimachi. Good morning, everybody. My name is Corine Pearce, and I am going to introduce myself in a minute. But before I do that, I'm actually going to sing a song, and I've never sung a song into a microphone before. It's kind of freaking me out a little bit because I'm not a singer. But every time that I go somewhere and I speak, I was raised in a really traditional home, and we do a prayer song. So also, I want to honor the people whose land I'm on. And she said Apache, Dene, and Pueblo. When I typed it into my phone, it only said Pueblo to me. I want to honor the struggles that they went through and the struggles that their people continue to go through. And I recognize this as their land still, no matter who owns it. It's still, they are still the stewards of this place. I'm Pomo from Northern California, and I talked to a few people this morning, and they had never heard of us. We're actually about the third largest tribe in California. We're just not famous because we don't have a casino or anything like that. So the song that I'm going to sing is a blessing song and a prayer song. And in my culture, there are some songs that can actually be directly translated, mostly hunting songs and growing songs, but this song can't actually be translated. When you sing a prayer song, it's the intention that goes through the song, not what the words actually mean. This is a song that has been passed down to everybody, and I'm going to ask you guys to stand up. If you're an elder, you don't have to, you already did your standing, but if you are a young person, please stand up to give honor to the people that brought this song to us. It's also a chant song, so I sing a few verses of it. And this is a song that some of our songs are still secret. Some of our songs don't leave our sacred places. This isn't one of those songs. And this is also a song that you can sing. It's really easy to catch the words. So I'm going to sing it, and it's really weird on microphone. So. Also, when I'm done, you say, oh, okay. Ahana, hello, hey, boli wena, wena, 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 oh, 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 oh. Thank you, everybody. You can sit down. Okay. Keshi Corine Pearce. Ana Pikabitamde. Ke Kasil Ana Napo. Ke Danasha. So my name is Corine Pearce, and I come from Redwood Valley, California. And I am from the Redwood Valley Band of Pomo Indians. So I'm actually where I'm from. When I do land acknowledgement where I'm from, I usually say the traditional land of my people, because I'm the tribe that's from there. I also have ancestry in California, in Mendocino and Lake. So I'm very tied to that place. This is the second time that I've given a speech at a farming conference. And the first time was a total mystery to me as to why they asked me. I did a speech at the BioFarm conference, the 40th anniversary in California. And I am a basket weaver. I just turned 45. Yay, happy birthday. And I started weaving when I was 9 years old. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information about that because that actually is who I am. Like, I always feel like I'm in recovery. You know, I've been to a lot of recovery meetings with family to support them, and they say, my name is this and I'm an alcoholic, and my name is Corine and I'm a basket weaver. And that's how I see the world. So I started at 9. And if any of you ever are curious about, you can Google my name, which is Corine Pearce, total vanity search. And I have a PBS documentary that was done about the work that I do. And I have actually a few. And I work with a lot of museums. I work with land projects. I work with restoration projects. When I was 9, I went camping, and a woman came to our camp and she talked about basketry. And we were actually in San Francisco. She was talking about restoration of wetlands, and her tribe's baskets relied a lot on wetland plants. That wasn't important. I was 9. I was like, oh, this is fun, cool. And then I went to sleep that night and we camped under a willow tree, and it makes me cry. So I dreamt about my great grandmother that night, who I've never met. And she really talked to me and she said, you have my hands, you have this knowledge. And I don't argue with elders. So I believed her. And I woke up that morning and I had a different view of the world. So there are, like, Oprah calls it an aha moment. That was my aha moment, where I was able to look at plants and see, like, I call it my basket maker's eyes. And I'm sure you guys have something similar, because those basket maker eyes, as I got older, turned into land management eyes. Like my plants, which are a lot. I actually was just talking this morning about where I'm from in California is like, it's like Costa Rica, right? Because Costa Rica has stuff from North and South America. California, where I'm from, is actually the most biodiverse area. So because we have ocean, we have desert, we have swamp, we have oak savanna, we have redwood forest, we have so much. Pomo baskets are, we are famous for basketry. And this is how famous we are. There are 2 rooms for baskets at the American Indian Museum. One for all the other tribes in the United States and one for Pomo people. We made baskets out of more plant materials and more styles than everybody else. And that's because we were master land managers. The unsettlers have only been in California for a little over 200 years. They came late to us. It took them a while, but there were people there before them. The Spanish came. Before the Spanish came, the Russians came. And the Russians wrote books about what they saw, and they took so much stuff. They took natives with them back to Russia. They took baskets, they took regalia, and they took everything. And they took their firsthand accounts of what they saw when they got here to California, I mean. And they talked about it being like a park-like, where you could ride on a horse side by side through the forest and have room without having to go single file. Now, how many of you have seen a forest like that in California? How many of you been there? That is not possible. Even right behind here where I'm looking, that's not possible. Everything was managed. I still teach about that. Like I teach about how fir trees are bullies in California, and all the big fir trees that we have in California are really post-colonial because Pomo people chop those babies down. They suck up a lot of water. They take all the shade. They're bullies. So it was very well maintained. And although unsettlers had perfected genocide by the time they got to California, a lot of those practices were still taught in secret, in story. Native people are storytellers, and that's how we learn and that's how we teach. So here I am, a little girl making baskets. I had to recreate a connection to place and land that wasn't there for me. It's a sad moment, right? So we've all gone through trauma. Just to be alive today, no matter what race you are, to be here, our ancestors went through a lot. But I'm very certain that none of us would be here today if they didn't have a connection to the place where they lived. I also have German ancestry, through my dad. And I went to Germany and I did the same thing there that I do here to make connection with the land. And you guys have it better than anybody, because when I tell people how to make a connection with the land, one of the main things that I tell them to do is to eat from where they are. And you guys are like ranchers and farmers, and you guys are right up there doing that. Another thing that I tell people to do is to gift to the land where you are. And that is a big tie in. And I talked about it this morning to you right there. In California, so I am not a farmer. My dad did farming, but I am not. I am a wild tender. I am a wild land manager. Pomo people could not own land. That is a concept that is not, it still is not in my brain. But I do own trees. I do own wetlands. I do own stands of oaks. In a way that is a non-colonial ownership. And this is what I want you to get. I want you to understand this ownership that I'm talking about. It's like your mom. She's my mom. She can't be your mom. She isn't your mom. I also can't make her do what I want. I have to work in cooperation with her. I have to learn from her. I have to help her. I have to gift things to her. I have to give her support, and we take care of each other. And as farmers and ranchers, I'm sure you understand that already. You know that it's about give and take. I think for me, it's way more about give at this point than it is about take. And I teach basketry, which is a huge thing. So I was talking a minute ago about how I had to recreate this connection. And there were weavers that were alive in my lifetime. They were all very old. And I'm not exaggerating when I say they really all died within about 8 months of each other. And I was about 8. So I didn't get to meet those women. I didn't get to hear their stories or understand where they harvest or even get any hints or tips from them. So I came into basketry with no support at all. And it's was crazy. So I read every single book that there was about Pomo basketry. I even got access to books that aren't being published, that were handwritten notes in the back of museums. And every book said something different. Like the first book I read said, harvest willow in the spring. And then the next one said, harvest it in the autumn. And then there was an interview with a native basket weaver who said, you should be out harvesting when it's the hottest part of the summer. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. luckily, I have OCD and I'm grateful for it. And I think that all of us have it to a level. And I have this great mentor who said that all great artists have OCD, but not about everything. If you saw my house, you wouldn't believe me. But if you saw my craft room, you'd totally believe me. So from the age of 9, I started harvesting, and I would keep immaculate notes of where, when, what the weather was like, what the rain average was that year. If there was construction up the road, if they were spraying the vineyard. So I did that. I did my own scientific study. I still do it. I still write dates and everything on what I harvest. And it turned out that everything that I read was wrong, and everything that I read was also right. So there's so many kinds of baskets to make that there really isn't a season for harvesting. So everything has a different season. And that means that I was outside communing with nature for a good 30 years. And I really dedicated my life to being able to take care of these plants and to being able to take care of these environments, these small environments where my things are growing. I grew up with fire ecology. I am so blessed to have uncles that still did it. They did it in secret. This is the first year that the Forestry Service has worked with Indigenous California people to learn about fire management. So in California, and I don't know if this applies to everybody, and I'm going to talk about lumber real quick. So the way that our Forestry Service looks at our forest is how much money they can make. And that actually comes, I think it came from Australia, that way of looking at it. And they just use that same template and they're like, okay, well, it works there. It's going to work here. But when you're chopping down eucalyptus trees, it's much different than chopping down redwood trees and oak trees. Eucalyptus trees, they don't care. They're like comfrey. You plant them there and they're never going to go away. And it's just, if you try to cut them down or burn down, they're just going to make more babies. So it's a different view. And I go into the forest with my uncles and they would do small burns, small controlled burns, and they'd teach me why and how. I learned so much. And then I realized that was impacting the water. So use of fire impacts the water. Foreign plants, invasive plants, non-native plants are evil. And there's a couple of reasons. So I don't know if any of you have heard since like 2015, but California's been on fire. And basically since 2015. And in 2017, we had a firestorm, my very first firestorm that I experienced. And it was crazy. It was there were fire tornadoes everywhere. And I got the opportunity, although it was sad, my rancheria was on fire. 6 of our houses burnt down. We only have 30 houses, so that's a huge percentage, but it was actually pretty on track with the whole city of Redwood Valley. We lost something like 10% of our housing went up in flames. I have a garden on my rancheria that I started about 25 years ago, and it was a basketry garden, and I had been tending it, and the fire went through there. I said this morning, I don't know how many of you guys have seen Moana. I have a kid and have seen Moana several times, and there is a lava monster in there called Te Ka. And that's what it looked like when the fires were happening around. It was ripping, like all I can do is imagine that, because it was ripping healthy branches off healthy oak trees, just like they were twigs. And pine trees were exploding, and then propane tanks were exploding, and it was just insane. And my basket garden burnt, and my reservation burnt. And because of the work that we had been doing stewarding that and tending that and doing small controlled burns and removing litter and doing all of that. Although my garden was decimated, everything that I had been consistently caring for and tending grew back better than it had ever been. And everything that I hadn't been tending was gone. Totally same plants, just gone. And then I realized I did more research. I've been doing more research, and the non-native plants like broom, like gosh, all the kinds of grasses, the weed grasses that you can think of, they actually burn at a higher temperature than native grasses. It's crazy to me. So they burn hotter and they are more likely to explode than native plants, which really amazed me. So that really changed how I interact in my wild spaces. Because before I was like, you're not bothering anybody, I'll leave you there. And now I'm like, oh no, you're not staying. You're everybody out if you didn't come in here. So that gave me a different relationship with the land and with fire. I've also been doing a lot of water ecology, water restoration of these places. And we have, I'm sure everywhere you guys come from have your own issues with what's going on with your water. And where I'm from, it's vineyards. We are just, everywhere we look is monoculture. I mean, I'm right past the wine country and I am a basket weaver, so I'm on the river a lot. And I remember the first time that I rode all the way down the Russian River. And there were so many vineyards with huge pipes into the river, just like sucking everything up. And we're in the middle of a 7-year drought. I grew up with stories, with myths of there being 100-year droughts. And I worry about the unsettlers in my area because they didn't grow up with these stories and they are not prepared. They are not prepared. Okay, I only have 5 minutes. What was I wanting? I actually wrote a list of things I wanted to talk to you guys about. Let me get it out now real quick. I know I'm bad at this. Okay, let me see. Okay, so why am I here? I'm a weaver. The word for a pomo basket weaver since about 1890 has been master weaver. Pomo basket weavers, they're unbelievable. I mean, there are some myths about a relation of mine who was chased out of Lake County because his baskets were so good. They thought he sold his soul to the devil. And he ended up having to live in Mendocino County for the rest of his life. That's how good they are. But the word in Pomo for a master basket weaver is tanasha. And what it actually translates to is knowing hands. I apply that term to many things. But the coolest thing, I'm a firm believer that all knowledge already exists hanging out in the atmosphere, just like we're in a closed biosphere. All the water that's here is all the water that's ever going to be here. All the air that we breathe is all that's ever going to be here. All the knowledge, all the potential knowledge that we have ever had or will ever have is already here. So we just need to tap into it. I was lucky enough to grow up with a mama who said, you know, when I was like, Mom, I feel like the plants are talking to me. And she would say to me, well, just be very respectful to them, like treat them well. So treat them well. I know you guys are all weavers. You guys have master hands. And I started as a weaver of baskets. And then I became a weaver of people. And then I became a weaver of culture. So they use the term culture bearer. And it doesn't only apply to Indigenous people. It applies to all people. All people are culture bearers. And we are weaving our living culture right now. And you guys are here, so I assume that the thing that we have in common is we ask the earth to give back to us. We put our hands in the soil, we put our boots on the ground, and we actually are doing the work. And for that, I want to thank you all. I am so grateful that there are more Native Americans now. Due to the census, we know that there are more people identifying as Native American than ever did before. I was worried for a long time because I would tend to put colonizers in one group. Like I would throw the baby out with the bathwater a lot of the time, because and I don't mean to insult anybody, even the best intentioned hippies get it really wrong sometimes. And I'm grateful that you guys are all here and that your intentions are high. And I truly believe that when you honor where you're at, wherever you're from, you honor those people, that the knowledge comes to you. Like the land wants to be taken care of. My people and everyone who's here, who's Indigenous, we have been here for way longer than anybody thinks. And they're actually finding that all the time, that they're finding digs. And I watched this great show, and there's this science absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. So just because you can't find our stuff sometimes doesn't mean we weren't here. They've found my people evidence of them being there for over 30,000 years. And what were we doing? We were taking care of the oak trees. That's what we've been doing all this time. So I'm over time, but I'm going to go back to one thing real quick. So I want to talk about midden. And I know a lot of you guys are farmers and ranchers, and this might not apply to you, but midden is a fancy word for garbage, for our ancestral garbage. So that would be hair, fingernails, bits of bone, bits of leather, all of that natural stuff. That enriches the soil. You guys are farmers, you know how amendments work. The most healthy trees in California, the oldest, healthiest trees, have huge piles of midden underneath them. And the archaeologists and scientists are like, I actually went to this conference and it was great. And they're like, we don't know why, what is happening with all this stuff? And I told them, I just stood up and I said, those are gifts. Those are gifts from us to the trees, whether they produce or not. So my advice to you is gift to everything, because it actually alters the soil. And I'm going to leave on a really weird note. If you are a woman and you still bleed, that blood's supposed to be going into the earth. That's the best amendment. If you want to be connected to the place that you are from, gift of yourself, fingernails, hair, blood, and then reap that. You are in the circle. You are in the connection circle for being in that place. I don't believe that non-Native people can be Indigenous. Like, we got in this big argument about how long does it take for a naturalized plant to be an Indigenous plant? Well, never. But you can steward the way that this land has been stewarded all these eons, since I love the term time immemorial. You guys are the new tribe of land stewards. And I really respect that, and I really honor that. And I hope that you use all of your skill in every capacity to weave your land, to weave your culture, and to weave your people, so that we have a future for the next 7 generations. So, thank you very much. I don't know how to turn it off.
Okay. Corine, do you mind taking 1 or 2 questions? Okay, I'm here at the back. I have a portable microphone. We're going to take 1 or 2 questions if you're willing to take them, Corine. If you would like to ask Corine a question, put your hand up and we'll see who are the two folks. So we put the
There's no
microphones here.
stupid questions, for real.
And Leah, do we have any from our virtual audience? Okay, cool.
My question for you, Corinne, is about the conversation that you have with people who have really good intentions, who recognize their own ignorance in, the role that they play, perhaps in the actions or behaviors that they have on the land. What is your conversation like with those people who are inquisitive about the role that they can play?
This has happened a lot, actually, in the last, I would say, 8 years. I talk a lot about natives not having access. Like, there are lots and lots of landless natives in California, lots of landless tribes, and lots of tribes that weren't federally recognized against. We don't have land. And when I talk about, to be a good steward of the land that you own, you must first contact the original peoples of the land where you live, which is usually me. I'm an incredibly approachable person in my community. And I get people that come to me and say, can you come and look at my land? Come and hang out. And I always do. And I am a firm believer that we're all dumb and we're all geniuses at the same time. And that we are all, like, I really hope that we are all good intention. So I go there and I will walk their land with them. And I just introduce it to them in a way that I see it. So when you don't know anything about your land, when you don't know, you should really contact the tribes around you. And that is my first thing. And I actually said this on the radio show. I was like, the very first thing that you need to do is contact the tribe whose land base you're on. If they don't have anybody to talk to, if in their tribe, ask them who they know. And then study what plants grow there, study what areas are, what should be there, what is invasive, what can go. There's so much, and I can't speak to everyone's land because I'm from California. We are very specific in our area. The first thing that you do is just reach out. And if you don't have any of that, then ask the plants. Like, I'm a really firm believer that plants are people. And people are smart enough. Like, in another life, I owned a massage school, and I taught that school for 10 years. And I would tell people that we think it's intuition. We think that we're using intuition to do our massage, but it's actually more scientific than that. Our bodies are designed to pick up minute fluctuations in temperature and breeze. And I read this thing that said, if the planet was the size of a golf ball, your fingers would be able to tell the difference between a car and a building. Like, that's how fine your finger, like, your senses are made to listen. So for me, my real belief is that if you are high intentioned and you are open to, and I think you guys all are, I mean, people blow me away. They will talk to you. Like, ancestors will address you, even if they're not your ancestors, and trees will speak to you. Plants, the earth itself speaks. And that is what I really feel like. And to just look with new eyes. Like, don't look with farmers' eyes. Don't look with ranchers' eyes. Look with First People's eyes at what you're looking at. And then find a balance. Like, there's a lot. In California, so it went really fast from traditional life to farming life, like, right away. So my grandparents, they were farmers. They did, all of our grandparents did. Anybody that lived through World War II knew how to farm and knew how to grow before that. And it wasn't until World War II that things really started to change. Things really got industrialized. And we also had a plethora of chemicals that we had made up for war, and we had to find something to do with them. So just find that happy balance. I know a lot of indigenous ranchers, even in California, And I come up against them because they are only looking with the old paradigm eyes. Like, there's a new way to look. So seek people to help you. There are a ton. And you guys are all lucky enough, and I'm lucky enough. And I swear I manifested it, but I didn't. It's just wishing. All my life, I have said that I want to be a witness to a cultural renaissance, like the original Renaissance. Art, culture, learning new ways of being, better ways of being. And I think that's where we're at now. And I'm glad that you guys are all part of that cultural renaissance. So I hope that answers your question.
Corine, thank you so much. Because we are running behind this morning, I'm going to cut it at one question, but I want to let everybody know that we have roundtables tomorrow, which is a place where we can have a longer conversation. Corine will be at our first session of roundtables tomorrow. So those of you who have questions, or you have questions come up over the rest of the day, you can ask those questions tomorrow at our extended Q&A roundtable session. So Corine, thank you so much, everybody. A huge round of applause for a beautiful talk.
Like I said, I'm super approachable. So if you have questions and you don't see me, my email is my name, corine.pearce@gmail.com. So drop me a line if you want to. Thank you.